What's up YouTube, this is Bystander X79 guys. Today I'm coming to my latest deck profile video for September 2021. And today guys, we're going to be looking at my Odd Eyes Magician deck. Now before we get into this, a little channel news. Alright, my work schedule is shifting back to its more normal form, which means I'm going to be able to focus more on content creation because most of my work is going to be towards the evening rather than in the morning, which is awesome. I'll be able to record a lot more content and be able to produce it a little bit easier for me, instead of what happened this summer where my schedule was a little bit more crazier. That being said, one other thing I'm going to turn on to is that keep your eyes out because the giveaway for this year's Megatins will be starting on September 26th. That's the Monday before the tins officially released on October 1st. So keep your eyes out on that. With those things out of the way, let's just get back into this deck profile. Now, Odd Eyes Magician, been around since the Arc V era started. And to be very honest, it is a very strong deck. The deck can put up multiple negates in an end board that can actually cause your opponent so many problems. It can play through hand traps, and it even has built-in innate effects that can actually help deal with problematic floodgates. So the deck can do a little bit of everything. And without further ado, we're going to jump right into this. As always, we're going to start off with the main deck, starting with the monsters, and we have the one copy of Performapal Skrulkobrat Joker. Joker is only at 1 right now. A lot of people thinking it's going to be coming down the list, including myself. I feel that it's going to be semi-limited on the next ban list. But that being said, the primary reason why we're running this guy in the deck is basically because on its normal summon, you're going to be searching out either a Magician or an Odd Eyes monster to add to your hand, which is actually very cool. That's all we really need for it. To be honest, you don't have to run the deck with this card in it, but the extra consistency does help. Next up, we have 3 copies of Harmonizing Magician. Harmonizing Magician, the only effect we're really using her for is whenever she's Pendulum Summoned from the hand. When she's Pendulum Summoned from the hand and hits the field, she actually is able to bring out a Magician monster from your deck onto the field, defense position with its effects negated. And that's pretty much the effect we need from her, because it helps not only thin out the deck, but gets what you need onto the field ASAP. And that just helps your players getting going, because we want to be seeing those level 7 monsters. Next up, we are running 1 copy of Tuning Magician. I think this is the smaller version of Harmonizing. Tuning Magician is actually a very awesome level 1 tuner. If she's in your hand or the graveyard and you have 2 Magician monsters in your Pendulum Zone, you can actually special summon her from hand or graveyard. If you do this, your opponent gains 400, you lose 400. But even with that, she hits the field, and by just using her alongside one of your level 7 monsters, you can easily go into something like a Borreload Savage Dragon to be able to put up an Omnigate on the board. So that's why she's in this deck. Next up, we have one of the level 7 Magicians we're running in this deck, and we have 3 copies of Zhang Qi Magician. Zhang Qi Magician, what we're doing is we want him in here for the level 7 body, as well as its Pendulum effect. This Pendulum effect, you can target 1 face-up Xyz monster you control, and then you can use that Xyz monster as an Xyz material, treating its rank as a level instead, and then that can just open up a whole lot of different plays with utilizing certain monsters on your board. Next up, we have 3 copies of Dragon Pit Magician. This is the other level 7 we're having, and Dragon Pit is actually pretty good. Besides being a level 7 body, it also has that amazing Pendulum effect. While this card's in your Pendulum Zone, you can discard a Pendulum monster from your hand, target a spell trap card on the field, and destroy it. It's an out to things like mine or other floodgates, so it's definitely worth having in your deck. That's the Magician side of the deck. We're going to be going to the Dragon side. And of course, we're going to start off with 3 copies of the Odd Eyes Arc Pendulum Dragon. This is the Vanilla Dragon. Again, its Pendulum effect is very awesome. If a Odd Eyes card you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, and that includes your own, you can special summon one Odd Eyes monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard. You can only use this effect once per turn, but still getting that additional body on the board just helps. Next up, 3 copies of Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon. Both of its effects can come up. I mean, it can inflict double damage whenever it battles, which is actually pretty cool. It can help you get that little extra damage to your opponent to help you win. Its Pendulum effect is actually pretty cool because during the end phase you can actually destroy this card and search your deck for another Pendulum monster to add to your hand, which is actually pretty awesome. And additional search does help out. Next up, 3 copies of Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon. Revolution, I can tell you right now, we're primarily using this card for its search effect. Basically, you discard this card from your hand, pay 500 life points, and you search in your deck for another Pendulum monster to add to your hand. Its Pendulum effect can come up from time to time. Getting this card into the field, you can target a Fusion, Synchro, or Xyz Dragon-type monster that's in your graveyard. You can destroy this card and special summon that monster onto the field. Depending on what other Pendulums you have in the skills, would basically make you how you're going to put together your plays. Next up, I'm also running 2 copies of Odd Eyes Persona Dragon. I just love the monster effect. It's a quick effect that can actually just negate the effects of any monster special summon from the extra deck, and since that happens a lot in this game, its effect will come up. So it is worth running in this deck. Its Pendulum effect is actually pretty cool. If your opponent targets one of your Odd Eyes monsters during their turn, during the end phase, you can actually special summon this guy to the field, and then replace its scale with another Odd Eyes monster from your extra deck. For some Pendulum support, we are running 2 copies of Supreme King Dragon Darkworm. Let's just face it, Dragon Darkworm is just an amazing starter card. Easy to get into the graveyard, special summon to the field, so you have a body on board. It can search out and within your deck, looking for one of the 2 Supreme King Gate Zeros. We're not using its monster effect or its Pendulum effect. We're just basically using it to widen the scale, since it's scale 0, and using it for its level 7 body. That's it. Alright, that's it for the monsters. We're moving into the spells. So we have 1 copy of Foolish Burial. Send anything from the deck to the graveyard. We have 1 copy of Dragon Shrine. You could actually ditch Foolish Burial and go to Dragon Shrines, in my opinion, but sometimes you want to put a Magician into the graveyard. So that's why we're running Foolish Burial as well. If you send a Vanilla Dragon Monster Arc Pendulum to the graveyard, you could also send another Dragon Monster to your graveyard alongside of it, which can help at times. We got 3 copies of Duelist Alliance. If there's a card in the Pendulum Zone, you could add 1 Pendulum monster or Pendulum, spell, and trap card from your deck to your hand. So it's just an overall great consistency card to run. We got 2 copies of Pendulum Call. Pendulum Call, you discard a card from your hand, and then you add 2 Magician Pendulum monsters with different names from your deck to your hand. And until the end of your opponent's next turn after this card resolves, Magician cards in your Pendulum Zones cannot be destroyed by card effects. You can only activate 1 Pendulum Call per turn, and you cannot activate Magician monsters' Pendulum effects this turn. A lot of restrictions, but it is just a great card to have to help widen that scale. Next up, we have 3 copies of Spiral Flame Strike. Has 2 effects you can activate. One of them allows you to, if you control an Odd Eyes card, you can target 1 card on the field and destroy it. So again, you can deal with problematic floodgates like mine. More than likely, you'll be utilizing the second effect, which basically add 1 level 7 Odd Eyes monster from your deck, or face up level 7 Odd Eyes monster, Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand. And then, of course, we're running 3 copies of Sky Iris and 1 copy of Terraforming, which is technically 4 copies of the field spell. It protects Magician and Odd Eyes monsters in your Pendulum Zones from being destroyed by opponent's card effects. And then you can target 1 face-up card that you control, destroy it, and then you can add an Odd Eyes card from your deck to your hand, which is actually very good. So you have that consistency factor. That's it for the main deck. We're moving into the extra. Starting off with one copy of Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon. This is all you really need. Vortex Dragon is an amazing Omnigate, and it's very easy to get on the field, even without having to fusion summon. Once it's on the field, you can actually bounce a card off your opponent's field back to the hand, which is actually pretty good, helping break up the board. And as long as you have face-up Pendulum monsters in your extra deck, you have the ability to negate your opponent's monster effects or spells and traps as well. So, yes, definitely a worthwhile card in your extra. For Synchros, we have Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon, another card that's easy to summon without having to Synchro summon. If this card is Pendulum Summon, you can target one card and your Pendulum Zone special summon it. Also, this card cannot attack for the rest of the turn. Typically, if you're going to be using that card's effect, you're going to be going into your rank 7 plays for the deck, so that's why it's in here. And of course, I mentioned this before with Borreload Savage Dragon is in the deck. Very awesome. Omnigate can power boost itself by grabbing a Link monster out of your graveyard and equipping it to itself to gain Borrel counters, so you can get up to 3 negates, or even 4 negates depending on when you summon it. So, yes, worthwhile. And of course, I have one other Synchro, and this is Supreme King Dragon Clear Wing. I just like it because it's basically a walking mirror force. It just blows your opponent's field and allows you to swing clearly. I am running 2 copies of Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon. This is the primary rank 7 you want to be going to, which is why I'm running 2. It can resurrect a Odd Eyes monster from your hand or from your graveyard, or even summon it from your hand, which is actually pretty good. So additional bodies in the board is always welcome. But the main effect we're doing is whenever this card leaves the field, you're special summoning an Odd Eyes monster from your extra deck, and typically you're bringing out either Vortex or Meteor Burst to really help your players get going, and that's why he is so important. Next up, we have a couple of the more blowout plays. We have Odd Eyes Raging Dragon. Raging Dragon, 2 level 7 dragon type monsters. If this card's face up in your extra deck and you can Pendulum summon out level 7 monsters, you can bring him out as well. If you are able to make him with using a Xyz Dragon monster, it gains 2 effects. For one thing, it basically can make it a second attack during the battle phase, and furthermore, once per turn you can detach a Xyz material and destroy as many cards as your opponent controls as possible, and if you do, this card gains 200 attack for each until the end of the turn. And with that second additional attack, yeah, you can basically swing for game with this card. The other card we can actually make is Odd Eyes Rebellion Dragon. Rebellion Dragon, similar to Raging Dragon, if it's made with an Xyz monster as a material, you're basically targeting anything that's level 7 or lower on your opponent's field. You're destroying it, and then you hit your opponent with 1,000 points of damage for each monster destroyed by the card effect. Also, it can make up to 3 attacks during your opponent's during your turn, which is actually pretty nasty. Considering, although it's just a great card, typically you're going to be, if your opponent likes to summon a lot and leave a lot of low-level monsters on the field, this is the guy you bring out. If your opponent just builds a pretty powerful board, you bring out Raging Dragon instead. Okay, for some extra field control, we are running Dark Armed, the Dark Dragon. The Dragon of Annihilation is a level rank 7 monster, very similar to the OG Dark Armed Dragon. It does have an effect where you if you have exactly 5 dark monsters in your graveyard, you can also Xyz summon this card by using 1 level 5 or higher Dark Dragon monster on your field. It is able, you are able to actually pull that off in this deck, but it doesn't happen that often. It's just much easier to go in for a normal Xyz summon with 2 level 7 monsters. Also, just like with, or 2 or more level 7 monsters, and then just like Dark Armed Dragon, you can just detach materials and start popping cards off your opponent's field. So your field control option is there. And of course, I do have one more card. This card actually came out in Dawn of Majesty. You have Volo Fernegis, or so, I didn't know what butchered it. It's the Darkest Dragon Doom Rider. Once per turn, you detach 2 materials from this card. Target 1 face-up card on the field, destroy it, and if you destroy a monster, you can make 1 face-up monster control gain attack equal to the destroyed monster's original level or rank times 300 until the end of this turn. This card cannot attack the turn you activate this effect, so you don't want to power boost it. And its effect is a quick effect as long as it has a dragon type monster as a material, so very cool. You can use it during your opponent's fate. Okay, of course, this is a dragon deck, so you have to run Heraldic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres. It's just an amazing card to have as interruption. Keep it on your field, you distribute it, bounce a card off your opponent's field, and then you can actually special summon a dragon monster to your field, so you get additional bodies. And that's typically the effect I really run. I don't really wait for my opponent's turn to actually use it. I use it on my turn whenever I summon it. And of course, we are running tuners in the deck, so Howker for Bex is definitely a key player in this deck. It's very easy to use with Harmonizing Magician's effect. Basically, the Harmonizing Magician brings out, you link, well, typically you want to use that Magician plus another level 7 to create Absolute Dragon, then use Harmonizing plus the Absolute to get into Hulk. Absolute Dragon's effect will activate, giving you Vortex, and then you can actually bring out Tuning Magician with this, link up with this card and the Tuning Magician for Selene. Selene gains counters equal to the number of spells in your graveyard, and then you can remove 3 to get back the level 7 Magician you used back into the field. Use Tuning Magician's effect to bring itself back, more specifically after you link off Selene into a link 4. And then from there you can actually use Tuning plus the level 7 to go into Borreload Savage. And of course I just mentioned Selene. Of course she's in the deck. Like I said before, she brings back a high level Magician to your field, so she's necessary in this deck. For Link 4s, I am running Access Kotorka for going second. You are going to be able to get a couple of different Link attributes into the graveyard, so you're going to be able to get a couple of different pops off of it. I know it's not as many as you could do in maybe something like a Kotorka, but then again, you'll have other options to actually clear the field in this deck, so that's why you don't need that many pops off of it. And by targeting something like Selene, you could actually raise his attack to 5,300. And the other card that we have in here, which is the typical Link 4 that we go into on turn 1, is Appaloosa. Basically, you want to be making her with a max of 3 monsters to get 3 counters on her, so she can actually negate monsters' effects 3 turns, backed up by Borreload Savage as well as Vortex. Your opponent will be hard-pressed to really be able to get a foothold on the field, and if Appaloosa does survive, you do have a Link 4 on the field to actually utilize for the summon of Access Kotorka to power boost it to 6,300 instead of 5,300. Alright, guys, that is it for my Odd Eyes Magician deck for the September 2021 format. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this on my channel, make sure to subscribe and enable notifications so you don't miss any uploads. Check out the description box below, find the invite link to my Discord server, join the conversation, we'd love to have you. Check out my affiliates, tcgplayer.com as well as sidedeckversus.com. Great resources for any Yu-Gi-Oh player and help support the channel. Follow me on social media, and guys, until next time, peace.